It was recently announced that PREMA would be joining the IndyCar grid, running 2 cars in the 2025 season. They also currently compete in Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula Regional European Championship, Italian Formula 4, F1 Academy and the World Endurance Championship. Now the PREMA team are notorious for developing F1 stars including Mick Schumacher, Oscar Piastri, Lance Stroll, as well as F1 race winners such as Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon and Charles Leclerc. But how would they perform if they was running their own F1 team? So for possibly the last time, I loaded up F1 23 and created a new MyTeam career mode with the PREMA team. I set all the development settings to automatic and simulated through the next 10 seasons to see how this team would perform. The PREMA car will use a Ferrari engine, and a driver lineup for at least the first season is the current Formula 2 PREMA driver of Oliver Bearman, alongside a former PREMA F2 champion in the form of Mick Schumacher. But before we begin the simulation, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. F1 24 is released real soon, and I really want to go bigger and better than ever before on this channel with the new game, so make sure you stick around. So let's take a look at the Constructors' Championship for the first season. Red Bull absolutely stormed to the top of the Constructors' Championship, managing to score over 100 points more than second place Mercedes. Ferrari beat out McLaren, with a big points drop down to Aston Martin after they only scored 67. Alpine finished in 6th place, with the PREMA team finishing in a respectable 7th place in their first season as an official Formula 1 team. Heading over to the Drivers' Championship, and in 3rd place we have the McLaren driver of Lando Norris getting his first race win during this first season.
Coincidence? I think not!
2nd place is quite a surprise compared to the real life Formula 1 season, as we have the Mercedes driver of George Russell finishing just behind, no surprise here, Max Verstappen. The champion actually managed to finish first in 10 out of 16 races, giving him just under a 150 point lead ahead of George Russell. Now surprisingly, George Russell actually didn't win any races this season, but his teammate of Lewis Hamilton managed to win on 3 different occasions. The smooth operator of Carlos Sainz managed to win twice, with Lando Norris winning his first ever Formula 1 race. Now the PREMA boys finished their first season in 13th for Schumacher, and Oliver Bearman finished in P21 just ahead of Logan Sargent. And at the end of season 1 there will be regulation changes being made to the powertrain department. Nico Hülkenberg will once again leave F1 and will not return this time, as he retires after season 1. He is replaced by his potential real life replacement in the PREMA driver of Oliver Bearman. This simulation sticks with using former PREMA drivers, as they go and sign someone who drove for PREMA in 2021 in Formula 3 and 2022 in F2, that being Dennis Hauger. Alex Albon then returns to the junior Red Bull team, with Valtteri Bottas returning to his debut team of Williams. The final seat in the Kick Sauber is then given to the driver who lost his seat to Albon, this being Yuki Tsunoda. Despite the limited regulation changes, they seem to be effective, as they managed to cause a bit of a mix-up in the Constructors' Championship. Firstly, Mercedes overtake Red Bull to win the championship in this second season. Unfortunately for the PREMA team, they dropped from P7 down to P10, with Sauber, Williams and RB overtaking them, with Haas dropping down into last place. The Drivers' Championship didn't see much of a shake-up, however the 7-time champion of Lewis Hamilton makes his way back into the top 3. His teammate of George Russell manages to maintain a P2, with Max Verstappen retaining his Drivers' Championship again this year. His dominance wasn't as strong this year, as he only won 4 races and only led the championship by 11 points. George Russell also managed to secure 4 race wins, but they both finished ahead of Hamilton despite Sir Lewis's 5 wins. The other wins were split between Charles Leclerc, Sergio Perez and Fernando Alonso, finally securing that long-awaited 33rd race win. PREMA didn't have a great season, with Schumacher eventually finishing P17 and the new signing of Hauger finishing plumb last in the championship. Driver moves were sparked this season by the long-awaited sacking of Sergio Perez, who decides to call it a day in Formula 1. Former Red Bull driver and PREMA driver of Pierre Gasly returns to the senior Red Bull team, with Alex Albon leaving the RB team to join Alpine. The final seat is then given to Red Bull Junior, with Liam Lawson racing for Visa Cash App RB in Season 3. Even without regulation changes, the top spot in the championship changes again, with Red Bull earning their 2nd championship in this simulation. McLaren overtakes Ferrari, with the bottom half of the grid changing the most, even though PREMA stays in P10. The Drivers' Championship doesn't have too much of a change, with both Mercedes drivers still just missing out on the championship, but this time it's George Russell who finishes 3rd behind his teammate of Lewis Hamilton. And for a 3rd season in a row, a Red Bull driver wins the Drivers' Championship. However, it's the new Red Bull driver and the first-time championship winner of Pierre Gasly, after taking 11-point leads, just like how Verstappen did last season. Again, similarly to Verstappen, Pierre Gasly won 4 races to take home the championship, with Hamilton, Russell and Verstappen winning 3 times each. Lando Norris is able to return to the top step of the podium, with his teammate of Oscar Piastri joining the illustrious club of Formula 1 race winners. PREMA are unfortunately moving backwards as Hauger once again finishes in P22, but Schumacher also drops a position and finishes season 3 in P18. Now there should be a big shake-up going into next season as the regulation changes will affect the aero, chassis and durability department. After Fernando Alonso finally achieved his 33rd race win last season, he decides to retire from Formula 1. Now this is actually the longest I've seen Alonso last before retiring in any simulation or career save. Kevin Magnussen makes a switch over to the Aston Martin team, with the rookie of Theo Pourchaire taking a seat at Haas. 7-time champion Lewis Hamilton has been in a few championship fights in this simulation, but his age and longevity have finally caught up to him as he joins Alonso in retiring from the sport. Carlos Sainz makes an interesting move away from Ferrari and heads into the open Mercedes seat, with Oliver Behrman making the expected jump up to Ferrari. This leaves Haas with an open seat, so they decide to recreate 2021 and hire Felipe Drugovich, and will have 2 rookies driving their car next season. The biggest change in the Constructors' Championship doesn't come from the winner, that being Red Bull, but PREMA managing to capitalise on the major regulation changes and jumping from P10 all the way up to P4. Ferrari on the other hand take a big hit and drop down from 4th to P8. Third place in the Drivers' Championship once again goes to a Mercedes driver, with Carlos Sainz achieving his highest finish in the simulation. Reigning champion Pierre Gasly has to settle for 2nd place, with Max Verstappen returning to his championship winning ways. Verstappen missed out on the top 3 last season, so he decided to absolutely dominate this season, winning even more than season 1 with 11 times. Pierre Gasly still has a solid showing, winning 4 races, with PREMA's Dennis Hauger winning his first F1 race, as well as the team's first Formula 1 race. This took him to a solid P10 finish, with Mick Schumacher also finishing a respectable P8. Oliver Behrman had a very disappointing start to his full-time Ferrari career, with the team finishing all the way down in 8th. Dennis Hauger decides to take the illustrious seat despite his incredible race winning performances with PREMA, so we have to sign a new driver, and we go for another race winner, another former PREMA driver, Oscar Piastri. This allows Liam Lawson to move into a potential race winning McLaren, with Jack Doohan making his Formula 1 debut with the RB team. And despite finishing P5, Kevin Magnussen is dropped by Aston Martin and is replaced by Esteban Ocon, even with Alpine finishing down in P9. Alpine then replaced Ocon with the other Aston Martin driver of Lance Stroll, with Zhou Guanyu driving for Aston Martin alongside Ocon. Kevin Magnussen will still have a Formula 1 seat though, and will drive for Kick Sauber in Season 5. It seemed that Aston Martin had made a pretty good decision by getting a completely new driver pairing as they move up to 3rd place in the championship. Mercedes managed to once again outscore Red Bull and PREMA remain in 4th place. The reigning champion doesn't seem to do all too well in the next season, with Max Verstappen finishing in 3rd place. George Russell secures another P2 finish ahead of Max by just a single point. The new driver champion is a big surprise as none other than the new Aston Martin driver Esteban Ocon takes his first championship of his career. Both Ocon and Verstappen would win 4 races, with George Russell winning 3. Oscar Piastri in his new PREMA car would add another 2 wins to his record, with Carlos Sainz getting his first win in his Mercedes. The former champion of Pierre Gasly and the McLaren of Lando Norris were both able to achieve another race win. PREMA had maybe a stronger season, with Oscar Piastri recording the team's highest finish of 6th, but Schumacher remains in the top 10, but just. As this will be the last simulation of F1 23, I decided to spice things up. Instead of the usual driver transfers, all drivers were released from their contracts and a free-for-all commenced, resulting in some weird driver lineups. Red Bull will have the pairing of Pierre Gasly and Zhou Guanyu, Bottas and Leclerc will drive for Ferrari, Norris and Ricciardo will line up for Mercedes, with Piastri and Hauger driving for Alpine, Ocon and Albon will be at McLaren, Liam Lawson and Russell will be at Kick Sauber, Carlos Sainz with Mick Schumacher will drive for the promising Aston Martin, Jack Doohan and Yuki Tsunoda will drive for Haas, with Drugovich and Sargent driving for RB. Pourchaire and Magnussen make up the Williams team, with Max Verstappen and Lance Stroll filling in at PREMA. Even after all the mayhem of that driver market, Mercedes still retain their Constructors' Championship, with arguably the best driver pairing on the grid. Red Bull suffer the most, dropping down to P5, and Ferrari continues to struggle down in P8. Looking at the Drivers' Championship, Carlos Sainz is able to return to 3rd place, this time in his new Aston Martin. The top 2 spots are occupied by both Mercedes drivers, with Lando Norris finishing in 2nd, and this means that Daniel Ricciardo finally achieves a Drivers' Championship. Despite winning the title, he actually only won half the number of races that Lando Norris did, but finished ahead by 13 points. Carlos Sainz was also able to secure 3 race wins, with Verstappen winning twice in the PREMA team. Pierre Gasly managed to stick with Red Bull, winning a race, and Alex Albon also secured his first ever race win. Max Verstappen Verstappen recorded another record high for PREMA as he finished in P4, but Lance Stroll wasn't as successful, finishing in P15. Speaking of Max Verstappen, he has decided to call it a day in Formula 1 and will retire. PREMA signed another former PREMA driver, saving Charles Leclerc from the horrendous Ferrari. George Russell then jumps up from the Sauber team into the Ferrari, allowing Oliver Behrman to rejoin the sport with Kick Sauber. There will be slight regulation changes made to both the aerodynamics and chassis departments heading into Season 7. It's taken 7 seasons in this simulation, but we finally have a different Constructors Champion since Brawn in 2009. McLaren are the team to dethrone Red Bull and Mercedes, with the latter dropping all the way down to 6th place. Now Williams have actually made a surprise appearance after they managed to secure 2nd in the championship. Red Bull finished 3rd, and so did their driver of Pierre Gasly. The curse of the former champion continues, with Esteban Ocon finishing only in 2nd place, behind a very surprising brand new champion, the Williams driver of Theo Pourchaire. After finishing last season in 8th, Pourchaire secured 5 race wins to take the championship. Pierre Gasly took 4 race wins, while Ocon only took 3. Charles Leclerc then bounces back from Ferrari and secures 2 wins in the PREMA, with Carlos Sainz getting another race win. That Williams must have been pretty good, as Kevin Magnussen also managed to win a race. PREMA's 5th place in the Constructors was a result of Charles Leclerc finishing in 6th place, while Lance Stroll finished in P12. After a poor few seasons and after PREMA stopped receiving funds from Lawrence, Lance Stroll leaves Formula 1. Logan Sargent raced for PREMA during his 2020 season in Formula 3 and will now race for PREMA in Formula 1. Zhou Guanyu gets dropped from Red Bull into the RB team, with Russell jumping ship from Ferrari to Red Bull. Carlos Sainz has been successful in the Aston Martin, but returns to take a seat in the Ferrari. Charles Leclerc then takes his former teammate seat in the Aston Martin, with PREMA finally promoting Kimi Antonelli into Formula 1. We now return to previously scheduled programming as Mercedes return to the top. McLaren dropped down to 3rd place and PREMA dropped down to P6 in the Constructors' Championship. Once again, Pierre Gasly finishes the season in 3rd place, this time behind his new teammate of George Russell. Former champion, the Williams driver of Theo Pourchaire, drops down to P8, with Lando Norris winning his first ever Drivers' Championship. He managed to win a whopping 6 races this season, with George Russell winning 2, but still finished 5 points ahead of his Gasly despite Gasly's 4 race wins. Daniel Ricciardo also manages to win twice, with both McLaren drivers of Albon and Ocon winning just 1 race each. PREMA's new signing of Logan Sargent finished a solid P9, with Kimi Antonelli finishing P15 in his debut Formula 1 season. Kevin Magnussen unfortunately wouldn't win any more races and has decided to retire to spend more time with his family. Frederick Vesti is a new face on the Formula 1 grid and will race with Williams next season. Dennis Hauger is then dropped by Alpine and replaced by Jack Doohan, who leaves Haas. Daniel Ricciardo then makes a very questionable move away from the very successful Mercedes in favour of joining Haas. Current Mercedes reserve driver Mick Schumacher finally makes it to a full-time Mercedes seat, with Yuki Tsunoda moving to Aston Martin. There will also be another brand new face in the Formula 1 season, as the boy from Barbados, Zane Maloney, will make his debut with Haas F1. Now both the powertrain and durability departments will have regulation changes going into the penultimate season. We now enter the penultimate season of this simulation, and Red Bull are able to return to the top of the Constructors' Championship ahead of Mercedes and Aston Martin. The former champion of Pierre Gasly once again finished in 3rd place for the 3rd season in a row. The previous champion of Lando Norris falls victim to the curse and isn't able to win back-to-back championships as he finishes in 2nd place. And once again, we have a brand new first-time champion, the new Red Bull driver of George Russell. He won 4 races and held a 20-point advantage over Lando Norris despite Lando's 7 race wins. Russell's teammate Gasly would pick up 2 race wins, with Alex Albon adding another win to his record. We then continue to have 2 brand new race winners, as the Aston Martin driver of Yuki Tsunoda and the PREMA driver of Kimi Antonelli both win races. Despite the race win, Kimi only finished in P12, whereas his teammate of Logan Sargent will actually finish the season in P5. The reigning champion curse is getting even stronger, as this time the champion George Russell actually retires from Formula 1. He's replaced by the Aston Martin driver of Charles Leclerc. Aston Martin must have a pretty strong relationship with Honda, as they signed Ayumu Iwasa to complete a fully Japanese pairing alongside Yuki Tsunoda. Logan Sargent is unfortunately dropped by PREMA and is replaced by the returning Oscar Piastri. After the questionable move from Daniel Ricciardo to Haas, he moves into the open Alpine, and Valtteri Bottas takes the opportunity to relax and takes a backseat at Haas. Alex Albon makes a move to the rear merger Ferrari team, with Drogovic moving to McLaren. Frederick Vesti moves to the RB team, with Dennis Hauger managing to return to Formula 1 and will drive for Williams for the last season of this simulation. The final season will once again bring us a Mercedes Championship win, beating Red Bull by just a single point. The debutant of Ayumu Iwasa had a pretty incredible first season, as he managed to take his Aston Martin to 3rd place in the Drivers' Championship. Charles Leclerc isn't able to maximise the potential of the Red Bull as he finishes in 2nd place. In the final season, the former champion's curse seems to be broken as Lando Norris is able to return to the top of the standings and take his 2nd Drivers' Championship. Lando Norris managed to win half of the season, winning 8 races, with the rest split between 6 different drivers. Both Charles Leclerc and the returning PREMA driver of Oscar Piastri were able to win 2 races each, with Pierre Gasly making a return to the top step. Dennis Hauger returned to the grid for the final season and also managed to pick up a race win. And then we have 2 brand new race winners, as Ayumu Iwasa's impressive season was topped off with his first win, and Mick Schumacher also finally became a Formula 1 race winner. PREMA had a so-and-so final season, finishing P5 in the Constructors' Championship, with Oscar Piastri just missing out in P4. Kimi Antonelli was able to improve on his previous results as he finished P11, but has shown bags of potential for the future. As we look at the overall stats for the 10 years, this simulation provides you 3 different Constructors' Champions, these being Mercedes winning 5, Red Bull winning 4, and McLaren only being able to win just the once. There was a large variety of Drivers' Champions as there were 7 different winners. Verstappen was able to win 3 titles, with Norris being the only other multiple championship winner. Esteban Ocon, Daniel Ricciardo, Théo Pourchaire and George Russell can all call themselves Formula 1 World Champion. The simulation would throw 20 different race winners, with Verstappen winning the most with 34. Norris was just behind on 30, and Gasly managed to secure 21 race wins. Russell won 16 races, Hamilton won 11, and Ocon won 8. Sainz would win 7 races, with Piastri winning 6 times. Leclerc, Ricciardo and Pourchaire all won 5 races, while Alex Albon won 3. Dennis Hauger was able to win twice, with Iwasa, Alonso, Magnussen, Kimi Antonelli, Schumacher, Perez and Yuki Tsunoda all winning just the once. But that brings to the end adding PREMA into Formula 1 and simulating through 10 different seasons. Now this will be the last video I make on F1 23, but rest assured as soon as the new game drops I will be there, so make sure you are subscribed and have the notifications turned on. Drop a like on this video if you enjoyed, and if you made it this far, let me know what career mode you'll be doing on F1 24. Will you be doing a driver with a current driver, make your own, or do a MyTeam save? But that is going to be all from me, so I hope you have a good day, good evening or night, and goodbye.